When we look at the analysis of each campaign, we can say, oh, it's probably fair to split out on this now. And so what we're trying to do is create multiple maximized conversion campaigns, but keep the budgets low. So we're increasing the budget by creating more campaigns. And then once we feel like, okay, this is spending a good amount of money with the maximized conversion campaigns, then we'll group it together inside of a target CPA campaign. And then the target CPA campaign can spend a lot more money.
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Guess who it is? Your favorite person in the whole wide world, Anik Singal, back with another episode of The Fighting Entrepreneur. And you are in for a treat today because I got a guest on. I'm going to get massive consultation and major advice from a huge person that I don't even think you can hire, even if you wanted to. So you're in for a treat today, okay? We're going to talk about YouTube ads, but I'm not just going to talk YouTube ads, all right? I want to talk about big time YouTube ads. We're going to talk about how to take YouTube ads up to $1 million a month. What does it take to spend that much profitably? And there isn't a better person in the world that I believe I could ask that question to than our guest today. His name is Tom Breeze. And before I introduce him, you know what I'm going to say. Are you a member of Lurn or not? Are you being lazy? Come on, LURN.com. What's it going to take? It's free. Go join this community of amazing entrepreneurs. We're about to steamroll right past 420,000 members as I'm filming this. Amazing courses, some of which are just free. Go join the revolution. You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you start seeing the features we're about to release on Lurn Nation. You want to be a part of it. So here's your choice. You can either join us and be a part of the revolution, or you can stand on the sidelines and watch it walk right by you. So LURN.com, make it happen. And of course, AnikPodcast.com for all your binge needs during this crazy COVID times. Don't watch Netflix. Don't watch Hulu. Watch The Fighting Entrepreneur. Go to AnikPodcast.com. Amazing episodes for every topic you can imagine that you need as an online entrepreneur. With that said, our guest today is someone who does things incredibly differently, puts his neck on the line every single day, oversees over $100,000 a day of ad spend. But here's the deal. It's his pocket that's spending the money, not somebody else's. So he manages this ad spend for other people. But what I love about his model, which really shows he knows what he's doing, is that he works off of a CPA model. So unlike most agencies who just spend your money and what do they care, and they dare to charge you a percentage of that money they spend, he says, you know what? I'll spend my money. If I believe in this campaign, I'll spend my money. You just pay me X amount. And if this campaign loses, that's on me. It's not on you. And someone can do that. And he's been doing this forever. I came to know about Tom, I don't know, 5+ years ago. I really don't know when. But the reason was because that was when I was just like, hey, what's up with this YouTube thing? I remember I made a post about YouTube. I wasn't even thinking ads. Ads was like way out of my threshold. I was just thinking organic. And someone's like, Tom's the guy to know. And so I started looking into him. And he's been doing YouTube ads since before it was what the cool kids were doing. I mean, he's been talking about YouTube ads before everyone else was. And so, of course, it's no guess here that he is one of the best. So everyone help us welcome to The Fighting Entrepreneur, our guest for the day, Mr. Tom Breeze. Tom, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy. It's good to be here.
Yeah. All right, well, let's knock this right out in the beginning. Tom, we have a bit of a tradition here at The Fighting Entrepreneur. So if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Tom Breeze.
I, Tom Breeze.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
And reveal all my YouTube ad secrets.
And reveal some of my YouTube ad secrets.
Fair enough. Isn't it funny how when you say the oath with his accent, it just sounds so much better than when I'm saying it? So gotta love
British accent's taken me a long way, I think.
I'm sure. Tom, it's awesome to have you here. You know, one of the questions I want to put forth in front of you today is we're starting to do a lot of YouTube ads. We have been now for about a year plus. The funny story I thought you might get a kick out of is here's how I learned YouTube ads. March of 2019, so over a year ago, God knows I may have had COVID for all I know. I was in bed for a week and I was out. I mean, I was fever, sweating, coughing, half dying. But even at that point, I couldn't work, but I was bored out of my mind. And that was when I was like, let's go see what this YouTube ads thing is about. And I started watching YouTube videos about YouTube ads. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward, you know, at least to get your first ads going, to do the small ad spend. So we started doing it. So it's been over a year. We've been doing pretty well. But today, what I really want to learn from you is, what do I need to be doing? What does my team need to be doing to scale our spend up to $1 million a month? And you're already spending way more than that. So you're the right person to ask. But before we do that, just 5 minutes. I'm not a big story guy on this podcast, but like, who's Tom Breeze? How did you get into YouTube ads, and why is that your specialization? Why is that the thing you hung your hat on?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, when I was at university studying psychology, did 3 years of that, and then I continued on to do my master's. And I studied loads of different ways of kind of working with people, the disciplines and the principles of what makes people tick and what makes people behave in certain ways and their emotions and this type of thing. And that was something like a subject that's been passionate to me, and that's always been underlying everything I do. So I actually started out as like a therapist. I was like 24 or something like that after my master's, and I remember kind of like trying to advertise my services as like a 24-year-old, being like, yeah, I can help you change your life. I know nothing about life at this point, by the way, just so you know. Like, and I kind of was working in London, and I was kind of panicking a little bit, being like, all my buddies didn't go and do their masters. They went straight into the city, and they were getting good jobs and starting to make some good money. And like any good 24-year-old making money would just like go and have a great time at the weekend type thing. And there I was trying to build and hustle this business together. And I tried Yellow Pages. I tried all those different things, and nothing. I did some PR, got in some magazines. I was like, here we go. My phone's going to be ringing constantly now. And then I had like one phone call from this like PR piece that was in a kind of relatively major publication. And I was just like, okay, I need to work out how to do this properly. And it was that thought, on the same day, I had a thing come through the post that was like a £30, which is like $45 worth of Google ad spend, just a free voucher, like go and type in this code and you can have money on us. And this was before display or anything. It was just purely search, way before video. And I put like, okay, and my specialty at that time was like public speaking fears. So anyone who was like worried or nervous about speaking in public or meetings and that type of thing. So I thought, well, if someone in London types in how to overcome fear of fear of public speaking, I'll turn up for that. I'll just have a text ad there. And it kind of blew up immediately. Like I spent like £30 on the first day, which is again, $45. And I had 2 phone calls, and both people turned into a client. And so I had 2 clients paying me about £500 each. I was like, okay, I spent £30 and I made over £1,000 just from one kind of day. I was like, wow, this is really easy. And so I just kept on doing that. And I grew this coaching business, just me by myself, a 24-year-old, not really knowing what I was doing. And I didn't think anyone else could do what I did. So I didn't hire anybody. I was just me, a one-man band for ages. And I was just me and Google AdWords. That was what it was. And then Google AdWords started bringing in some slaps. I don't know if you remember those days where it was like you put a squeeze page up. They're like, nope, your whole account is banned for no good reason apart from you do one silly mistake. And so I kind of started to shift my attention. I put a video on my website as a way to hopefully increase conversion. It was about 7%, just people just name and email and contact form, nothing fancy. And my conversion rate, once I put my video on my website, went from 7% to 22%. And I remember the day I woke up just saying, okay, I'll put this video on, see if it works or not. I said, like, I thought my ad spend had gone wrong. And I thought, oh no, I've spent way too much. But it was converting so much better. So I had so many emails coming through of people wanting to work with me. I was like, this combination of advertising and this video on my website is working really well. And from there, I tried loads of things. I tried to kind of use video on YouTube and do all these different videos and this type of thing. Nothing was really working that well until I started into SEO. So I started getting videos ranked on Google and YouTube, like learned that whole process. Did really well, got some really good clients doing that, and kind of built an agency without knowing it. And then the next thing happens with Google is they start bringing in all the SEO changes like Panda and Penguin and Hummingbird updates and that type of thing. And all our rankings just dropped overnight. I was like, no, all these clients that are paying us good money, just all their results just disappeared. And one of my close buddies who was also a client of ours, I thought, I can't lose this client because it's like personal connection as well. So I took the video I created with them and I put my own budget behind it out of pure embarrassment, really, of like, I lost all their SEO results. I kind of took it personally and everything. And so I put some of my own budget behind this video and ran it as a YouTube ads as a brand new thing. This is probably about like 8 years ago or something. And I ran it as an ad, and I ran some traffic through it. And I thought, okay, I don't know if it's going to work or not. Didn't put any tracking in place. I didn't even think you had to do that at that time. It's crazy what I used to get away with. And then I called my client and said, hey, are these leads I'm sending through, are you getting the leads still, first of all? And they're like, yeah, these leads are coming through. I'm like, okay, cool, because your rankings have dropped. And they're like, oh, that's not good news. And I was like, but I think I've got another way. So I said, if I run these ads, I think they're going to get you leads. And he looked and he was like, making good money from the leads. And he was like, okay, well, I'll give you £10 for every lead that you send me. And I was getting them in for about like £2 or £3 at the time. I was like, okay, and how many can I give you? And he's like, unlimited. Like, he could really scale his business. I was like, okay, that works for me. And that was the start of my agency, really. I didn't know what I was really doing, but it was just a lucky time on the platform. And I just kind of worked out how to optimize the whole approach and how to create better video ads. And I get deep on that stuff now. But even like how to buy the ads in the best way and different strategies around that. And it just snowballed. Like, we've got more and more clients doing a similar thing and just growing and scaling. And we've had some amazing successes along the way. And yeah, so it's kind of 7 years later or something, and we're just still doing YouTube ads. I've looked at other platforms like Facebook, and I know them really well, but I just don't play in those places. I just focus on YouTube. That's kind of been my baby. That's worked well for me.
Awesome, man. Well, let's talk scale. What would you say you've taken? What's the largest you've taken a campaign or a client to in spend?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I was to do the bragging numbers, it'll probably be like $20,000 to $25,000 a day on one account, but it's short-lived. I don't want to like say that that's something that holds true long-term. It's like you can get like a peak and then it'll kind of drop down again. It's difficult to hold that and maintain those numbers.
Yeah, especially, yeah, because you'll soak out the market. So even in our case, one of the things I want to be clear about for anyone listening is I have a campaign that's doing really well where I teach people how to build email marketing businesses. It's one of my most successful products I've ever launched, but I'm not really in the mindset that I'm going to scale that to $30,000 a day or $1 million a month, because it's just, that's too big of a scale. It'll go too wide. It's not going to make sense. It'll go to a market that this doesn't apply to. However, I'm of the mindset that because we're also a publishing company at Lurn and we bring on amazing people who we publish, those are different brands, different faces, different topics. Collectively between them, we should be able to crush past $1 million a month, in my opinion. So Tom, let's talk. Let's say I was a client coming on board right now, had these big goals. So the only one thing we're going to start the stage with today is the offer is done. So let's not spend time talking about the offer. Anyone who's paying attention to this podcast, look, I got other guests on. We had Jay Abraham come and talk about offer. We had an amazing episode with Perry Belcher where he talked about offers. Go listen to those. You got to have an offer. You shouldn't even be thinking about YouTube ads unless you have a great offer that's tested and working. So got that. Great ROI, great backend, great long-term, great everything, great customer support. All is that set. And we've already tested it on Facebook, on YouTube, and other, it's all working. And I come to you with this. I'm already I think right now we're at about 12 grand or so a day on just that one campaign, on just ESI. And it's been like that for months. We're not seeing any downtick. Let's go from there, because this is all about scaling. So I don't want to go over a lot of the intro stuff. What would we do? I'll let you kind of guide the conversation from here. What do we need to do to set up for big scale?
Okay, cool. So whilst you talk about offer, like one thing I would say is that you need to appreciate that as you scale, you need to have a growth mindset. Like you need to make sure that you're like, if you're saying, I want to have a 3x ROAS on like from day one from this offer, I'll be like, well, that's number one. We've got to change that mindset a little bit. We've got to say like, okay, cool. Look at break even loss leader type approach, because you'll make it up on lifetime customer value. You need to give as much budget as you can to that front end that makes sense for the business. And so freeing up cash is going to be step one, I suppose. But I don't want to touch on that too much, as you say, because you've got some amazing guest experts that have come in and talked about that stuff.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I do want to talk more about that, because that's not something that they've covered. So the mindset of it is huge, right? I've learned this from Agora. I mean, Agora will spend 6 months worth of revenue on the front end. And so talk about loss leader, that's a huge loss leader. I don't want to do that at Lurn, but we're currently sitting, so for at the kind of scale that we're doing with this campaign, for every dollar that we put in, we're making 2 back. in a really short window. We're talking 30 days or less, because there's, things that we're doing in those 30 days. And so I've told the team, like, that's great. Now we know we have a back end even beyond that. And so let's grow. But I think a lot of people that start to advertise, you see this all the time. It makes me so mad, man. When I see Facebook posts, people are like, I'm getting 28-cent leads. And I'm like, yeah, you spent $6, on the hottest audience. You didn't share the full story. You're not going to get 26-cent leads when you start to grow and scale. Your conversions aren't going to be like that. Your ROAS, for anyone who's wondering what that is, return on ad spend. So your ROAS is not going to be 3x. And I love that. So what is, at scale, if you've got a client you're working with, is break even your usual goal, slight profit, loss? Where do you try to, what are some guidelines you follow there?
Yeah, so just to be clear, with a lot of our clients, we are ROASing 2, 3x, sometimes more. So we kind of take clients on with different mindsets. It's just that with those people that are looking to get big profit early on, then those people don't tend to scale quite so aggressively. It's not as easy to scale those ones. And you kind of get this other scenario as well, where if you have budget to play with, the game becomes easier. You can test much quicker. You can scale and try out new things. And if you find winners quicker, then you start getting back more of your profit margin early on as well. So it's a funny thing. You can scale with comfort when you have more margin. But yeah, we're looking to say, well, on the whole, we're saying, look, if a client can break even within a window of, let's say, a week, we like to try and make it 72 hours. If we can get a 72-hour break-even window, and there's good margin on that front end, then that's great. And it's almost like we have it with clients. So if we're spending the money and clients paying for that result within that window, it's almost like they're paying for free customers that then they can go and upsell. So that's the way that we kind of position it with clients. So it's not so if you imagine a continuum of, on the low end scale, you've got people that want to hit 5x ROAS from day one. Those are really tough campaigns to run and just greedy, in my opinion. It's too difficult to run it like that. So you can achieve those results if you want to spend $200 a day, but you're not going to scale. Then you have this middle ground where a lot of business owners are like, I don't want to run into the red and aggressively, because I want to know that by the end of the month I can cover my bills, and my Amex bill, if I'm putting all of my Amex, is not too negative, and I'm kind of okay with the fact that I can break even at the end of that month. It's not where I want to be, but in terms of how I'm scaling, that's cool. That means you can give a lot more budget to the ad buyers to go and test out a load of stuff and go and start scaling. But then there's a lot of companies that we work with who are like, do you know what? Just go get us customers. We don't really care, because we'll make it up in a year's time. And so there's that sort of mentality as well. It's like, oh, well, that's actually really difficult for us to sometimes pin down, because we like to have targets and a CPA model where it's like they pay for a cost per acquisition. And when they're like, just, I don't know, pay whatever you like, I don't care. As long as it's less than a ridiculous number, then go crazy. It's like, that's actually not so easy for us to deal with sometimes. So we tend to find that our sweet spot with clients is anywhere between $3,000 and $10,000 a day is actually something where it's really manageable and consistent, reliable, and you don't have to have this big peaks and troughs, and it's kind of, you can run it that way. But then over time, you want to scale it, so to speak. So it depends on how fast you want to scale it. If you said, I want to get to $1 million spend per month in 30 days, that's going to be real tough. You could do it in 6 months without too much issue, but you need to grow with the account. And if you go too quick, you're going to hit ceilings, you're going to be pushing things too hard. And then if something breaks halfway through that journey, it can set you back a month, So you want to do it slowly but surely.
Let me ask you a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'll try. And ballpark. So I'm in the internet marketing space. I'm sure you're used to dealing with this space. I'm sure you've dealt with clients in this space. If I came to you tomorrow and I said, hey, I want to hire your agency. What are you going to charge me CPA? And, I'm happy to be at break even or 40-50% above. So even 1.5 ROAS, a rough ballpark. What's a word I'm looking for? What's a target that my team should be looking for? What's a target you would be telling your team to look for? What would you be charging the client? You have a ballpark for that?
Yeah. So what we tend to say when clients are going through that, it's kind of a consultative sell to make sure we're a good fit for each other. What we say is okay, let us know what your ideal figure is. Like, what's the number that you put up on the board at the start of the year? You say, we want to try and get customers in for less than this. So I think, what's that ideal number that you want to try and hit? Cool. Make a note of that. And then we say, and then what's your maximum that you're willing to pay? Now, that's not necessarily a mathematical decision. It's just a comfort. It's a gut call. It's like, where do you want it to be? Or where's your maximum comfort zone? And normally you can tell, like, if you say, okay, well, what about this? And what about this? You're like, oh, I'm not sure about that price. Maybe a little bit less than that. That's cool. We find that number and we say, that's where we're going to start. That's where we're going to try and get it in to begin with. And then we try and knock that CPA down with the client at that point. So let's say, for example, we have, you're selling a product and we say it's a $500 product. Or actually, give me a product that you think.
So right now we have an evergreen webinar funnel. So, and it sells for $1,000. So I'm trying to get an idea for those listening and myself, what's a good number of cost per web reg on YouTube for top tier 5 markets, the tier 1-5 markets?
Yeah, I'd say you probably want to be getting it in for sub $10 per webinar registration. You're going to find the quality of the customers on YouTube is going to be higher than most platforms because it's a search-based audience typically to start with. You're going to go interest-based as you scale, but let's start off with a search-based audience. So you're going to have a good quality audience and they've watched a video of yours that might be 2 minutes in length on YouTube. And so by the time they click, they know a lot about what you've got going on. And so when they get to the page, it's not like it's a fresh landing page they know nothing about, or they're there for curiosity reasons. They're there because they've watched your video and they know what the call to action is. So you're going to find that you just naturally have a much higher quality customer coming through. They're going to show up more, so your show rate will be higher if it's a webinar, and also you'll find that your conversion rate will typically be higher as well, and the upsell rate as well. So look, it's a good idea to almost, if you've got an evergreen webinar, to almost clone it out for YouTube, because then you can see how that traffic performs. Then you can might treat that differently based on your CPA ideas. But yeah, when you're looking at that, I would say sub $10. If you're in like the financial markets or something, it's going to be a little bit higher than that. And if you're like in a fitness space, it's going to be cheaper than that as well. So your industry you're in will make a big difference. And yeah, and how hard you're pushing it. I mean, we can talk about how you break down the campaigns to keep the cost down and things like that as you scale. I think that'd be useful for a lot of people if they're getting into YouTube ads and they want to scale it to $1 million a month. But yeah, I think that as soon as you can put forward more money for the first acquisition and you know how much you can afford for the first acquisition, immediately you start saying, okay, cool, we can make this happen now. We can spend a lot more. And it's funny, the margins can be really tight sometimes. So like, let's say, for example, a customer's paying us, just to keep the maths simple, I say maths, by the way, with an S on it, being British. Let's say, for example, someone's paying us $10 a lead, and we're getting it in for like $8 or something like that. That's like a normal margin. And they said, hey, these are performing really well. We'll give you $15 a lead now. It means I can go up to like $13. And it's not like it's a linear jump. You go a big jump up to how much more you can get there. So you'll find that like by letting up a little bit more, it's an exponential improvement in how much scale you can get. So it's worthwhile really keeping a very close eye on your numbers. And if you can feed more to your ad buyers, you're going to find that you just are able to scale it a lot faster and explore faster as well. That's the big thing, is that if you go into different targeting methods and you see like, okay, well, our target's $15, let's say, and you start getting it in for like $18, you start questioning like, are we going to keep that one going or not? Because if we kept it going for 2 months, it may just kind of optimize itself and get down to less than $15, and then we're great. But you may have turned it off beforehand if you're really focused on a ROAS goal. So that's why the mindset thing makes a big difference.
Got it. All right. So there are 3 major components I want to talk to you about. One is ads, the second is targeting, and the third would be the setup, which you mentioned yourself. What's the campaign structure look like? So let's spend a few minutes talking about ads. So let's just say I came in, I signed up with you, we got an agreement. You gotta get me going, and you're gonna ask me for ads. What does that look like? What's the first few ads you're looking for? What does a great ad look like for you?
I'm glad you asked, because this is the key to all of it, really. Like, it's so funny. So many people undervalue creative. It's crazy. Like, I'll have people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm looking for a copywriter for an ad. I'm like, I don't think you're actually looking for a copywriter. You need to find a screenwriter. It's actually a different skill. And the copywriters can get really good at it, but they just need to appreciate the difference between writing for a video ad, because everything's visual and hardly anything's copy. Like you can look at some of the biggest ads that are going for masterclass, like the training thing, like masterclass with Gordon Ramsay doing cooking. Like his video is amazing. And he says at the start of the video, watch carefully. And he doesn't say anything else for another 23 seconds. But it's one of the best ads I've seen for a long time. And you think, well, it's not copy any longer. It's visuals. It's what you're feeling. That's the most important part of a video. So if we were to kind of look at creating ads, the first thing to think about is like, when you're seeing an ad, we break it down into 3 acts, because I come from a psychology background. So I'm looking at like, how do we convince someone who's watching YouTube videos, I'm going to interrupt them, and then we're going to get them to listen into the message. People say, oh, do a pattern interrupt. Again, those are useful, or do what some people call a schema violation, pretty much the same thing. But that will grab their attention, but you need to grab their unconscious attention. So if you think of it like an iceberg, like the mind, you've got the conscious brain, which is the part of us that's thinking and talking and listening to somebody else and concentrating, and can control, like can hold 7 plus or minus 2 things at any time, like bits of information. And then you've got the rest of you, which is like your unconscious mind. That's all your learnings, your emotions, your beliefs, your identity, stuff that you can't access immediately. And you don't know what it is half the time, but it kind of runs your whole life, right? So when you're watching a video or when you're doing anything in your life, it's unconscious, because that's how you can deal with the day-to-day. Like otherwise you've got way too much information to pay attention to. Your unconscious just gets on with it. And anytime it's taxed or anytime it wants something, it'll get the conscious mind to kick in. So when you're thinking about your video ads and you think, oh, I'm going to just write a script to a video ad, you've already started off on the wrong foot, really, because you've started off with the sounds, the words, and that the unconscious brain is not going to listen to those words. The best way to do it is to work out like, right, the first thing you do is grab the unconscious mind's attention, and you do that through understanding your product or your solution, the benefit of that, and then the emotion that will generate. So let's give you an example. Like, let's imagine I'm buying a drill. I know it's a classic marketing thing, but you're buying a drill. You're not actually buying a drill. You're buying a hole in the wall. You're not really buying a hole in the wall. You're buying a shelf, and you're not really even buying the shelf to be up. You're organizing the room so you can show off to your friends. Or you might want to put the shelving unit up so you can brag to your significant other, like, hey, look, I can do that. I'm a real man, type thing. You're going through that emotion to say, well, what is that end desire that you actually want? Because that's what the unconscious is tapping into. Like, if you can show someone like, here's the end result, then the unconscious mind almost wakes up and says, I want that. And if you can show a person doing that, the unconscious mind says, I want to be that person. And then if you can add an activity to that, and so the person is watching the video saying, basically the unconscious mind says, I want to be that person doing that thing and feeling that emotion. If you can show that at the start of an ad, people will be naturally drawn in unconsciously. They won't even know why they want what you have to offer just yet, but they're like, I like the look of that. I'm interested. And then the unconscious mind then says, hey, conscious mind, listen in, because we've got to work out how to get this thing. If you can show that visually, that is really powerful. So I wouldn't, unless your customers, so let's say, for example, your customers are really interested in learning email marketing, let's say for the benefit of their business. You might say, well, what's the benefit of that? Maybe more money and maybe more freedom because they can put on automation. Okay, what does freedom look like? And then if you were to shoot your video in your own office, it's not going to be as impactful in the start of the video as if you're to start in a place that emulates freedom. Maybe you playing with the kids or being out and about at a coffee shop, like whatever freedom might look like for your customers. You need to kind of show that at the start of an ad. And whilst people can go down the route of like, oh, I'm going to show a Lamborghini then. It's not that. It's more showing people like, this is the life that your unconscious mind actually wants. You want to be me doing this thing, feeling this emotion of freedom. And if you can show that at the start of the video, it grabs it. And then in act 2, you then pull them into a setting where it feels like, okay, here's where we're now appeasing the conscious mind, the logic mind. Now, if you have the unconscious mind suck it in and it's like, okay, I want this thing, whatever it is you're going to have for me, the conscious brain is then feels like it's in charge. It says like, okay, I'm going to work out how to do this thing. I'm going to listen in. And there better be things like credibility. So I can make up a story for myself to be like, yeah, these guys are really credible. And they have a method. They have like an action plan of some sort. Yeah, that makes me feel good, the fact that they have a plan here. Oh, and there's testimonials as well. There's other people have done this as well. That's all conscious processing. That's like the conscious brain is making up a story to itself to justify the unconscious wants. And so if the conscious brain is then saying like, okay, cool, I can play this story to myself. I can believe what my unconscious wants. It starts to almost lie to itself to be like, it's convincing itself for a completely different reason why it wants this thing, but it seems socially acceptable to now want this thing. You couldn't ever say, I want this because I want freedom. I want your email marketing campaign because I want freedom. It's too much of a disconnect. Unconsciously, not a disconnect. But then consciously, you say, you've been doing this for many, many years. This is the action plan. Here's what you're going to build. And here's all the testimonials. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in. This sounds really cool. And then in Act 3, you go back to scene 1, which you remind the unconscious mind of the emotion again, and you tell them exactly what to go and do next. And if you put that together as an ad, but start with the storyboard of that, and then start putting a script together after that point, the ad kind of writes itself. But the beauty is now with Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 2 can pretty much stay the same for every video you do from here on in. They're like assets. So you can Act 2 can stay as right, let's take you back to the office and walk this through. And so you can be on the whiteboard and talk through how it all works and things. But then Act 1 and Act 3 is just like a script you learn like really well. And then you can go and apply it to any setting you want. So you can go and create like 20 videos in a day, knowing they flow in a certain style. And that means you can bang out video creative constantly. And it's applicable for YouTube. You could use it for Facebook, Instagram, wherever. But you can start to really crank out good, solid creative constantly. And a lot of those are going to be winners. And that's how we are able to kind of do a lot of creative very quickly that we know is going to get the best result on YouTube. But you could easily do it like if you're filming it, you might do a short version, a long version, handheld camera version to the professional camera. It's like you're trying to leverage that one shoot as much as possible to get as much content done, so then you can use it across multiple platforms. But that's kind of one of the keys to this, is you're going to come across like, if you do enough of this, you're going to get a unicorn ad that performs ridiculously well, and you can keep on replicating that. And if your click-through rates and your view rates are perfect for YouTube, that's one of the biggest levers that you can pull to really start scaling your accounts.
You know, so it's funny, I don't do any of what you just said. So it was really, really interesting to listen. You're right. I'll tell you why. And I have nothing to hide from my listeners or anything. It's been, and I don't have that problem anymore. So this is why I'm really intently listening. But 6 months ago to today, my problems have completely changed. But 6 months ago, man, I'm on the go. Like, I don't have a big team of copywriters. I certainly don't have a screenplay writer. I got 1,800 things on my plate. So it was like, you need an ad? Okay. And I call them billboard ads. I would literally say, you can see them right now. Everyone, you've seen my ads. Get this book for free right now. I'm going to give it to you. You'll learn how to blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, it works. Like, it probably doesn't work as well as it could work, but it works. So it was like, okay, let's just do this because it takes zero creativity. Turn the camera on. I word vomit onto the camera, and then it just seems to work. There was a couple of times where we've done more thought out ads. One of my absolute best performing ads was, and some people listening, and maybe even you saw it, it went around, man. Millions of impressions. And the only thing I wrote on the Facebook above it was, I stole my friend's Lamborghini to make this video for you. That's it. There was nothing else. And the video, it was totally screenplay written. And it starts with my buddy getting on a webinar, and I slide his Lamborghini key from underneath, and I go on a joyride. And then in the middle, we parked the Lamborghini, and I'm like, here's the 5 steps I want to teach you, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, shoot, it's getting late. I better get back to my friend's house. I get back to the house, and there's a scene they show at the end with him just chasing me, right? And it's kind of like a funny ending. And so I think back to that, I'm like, yeah, that worked. I mean, but we tried a couple more, they flopped. So it is definitely one of those, like, you got to try a few. But I want to come back to this. So my target market is someone who's looking to start a business. So I'm not looking to talk to existing entrepreneurs. We're not showing existing businesses how to do email better. We're literally showing people who want to start deploying affiliate marketing and build a business. So I start to think like, I'm talking to someone. So if I'm going to go back, you said, look behind the scene of like, what's that emotion? So something where I'm like hanging around at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. where I'm not at work. So it's like, it's 2 p.m. and here I am riding my bike. You know, what are you doing? and what would you be doing at 2 p.m.? Well, let me share with you how you could be living this life. And then it's like series of like, am I going in the right direction there with that?
Perfect. So let's say, for example, you had a bike. You could then say, right, maybe there's something about that bike that can be used as a prop to have a metaphor behind affiliate marketing. Perhaps you'd have to sit there and think about it for a second. Something will probably pop up in my head.
Well, I got another one. How about this? This is even better. So I could point to my beautiful red Tesla, which is actually my wife's, but it's okay. I can say it's mine, and say, here's how I bought this Tesla for absolutely free using the internet.
Yeah, perfect. So you'd need to be driving it to begin with, because you'd need to be you basically want the viewer's unconscious brain to be like, I want to be that person doing that thing and feeling that emotion. Like it could be like, I know that I don't own a Tesla, but I know the acceleration on those things are ridiculously amazing. So you might just be like, hey, watch this. And you put it down. And I think it's got like insane mode or something like that. You just like turn it to that, you show insane mode and you put the foot down or something. And if that's the emotion you want to convey, but that's probably going to be an emotion of like adventure with freedom. And if that's what your customers want, then great. I mean, I bought a nice car, like a 4x4 thing, but when it's advertised on TV, it showed this car driving over like mountainside and then gets to an exclusive beach. The driver gets out, gets his surfboard and runs into the sea and starts surfing. And I was like, bought in. I was like, I'm done. That's what I want. But I didn't I had my logic brain kicked in afterwards being like, I've got 3 kids now and I had to get a new car. And I was like, oh, it does 7 seats. Amazing. Like logically now, I was like, oh, and what's the miles per gallon? That's good. Perfect. All right. I'm bought this. Those things did not make a difference to me actually if I was buying any car, but I logically made those decisions to back up my unconscious mind. So as soon as that person who was driving it, I was like, I want to be that guy having that adventurous life because I can imagine that's who I am. I've never driven off-road. I have no plans on driving off. It's too scary for me. But just the sense of adventure, I'm a killer for adventure. If anyone's up for doing something a bit different, I'm in. And so that grabbed me. So in the same way, you want to think about, right, yeah, if you're goofing off and you've got time to do things and that's what your customers want to be doing as well, that's amazing. But if you're going to scale, then you're going to want to create different ads, because if you wanted to goof off, you're probably talking to a younger audience potentially. Whereas if it's like a 50-year-old plus, it might be like, I want to spend more time with the kids, or maybe 60-year-old might be like, I want to spend more time with the grandkids. And so you're kind of choosing a different moment for everybody. And you can break out the different demographics and run ads to different people. And it's the same language, it's just a different setting each time.
This is awesome. So for my team that's listening, we're going to sit down and do this exercise. Get ready. We're going to make a whole bunch of basically who's our target market and what would be the first line we have to say to them, or the first sequence of videos that they would see. And I honestly, this would work on Facebook too. I know these videos will work on Facebook, just knowing how it is. I've actually found that if you can make something work on YouTube, it'll work on Facebook, but it's not always the case, vice versa, is what I have found and what I've been doing. All right, we could stay on this forever, man. And I kind of already feel like I'm going to definitely have you back on one of our episodes once I want to do one where I do some of these and then maybe have you review it live, and it would be kind of fun to see your take on it. That'd be fun. So, but I do want to move into the second part, which is targeting. Targeting on Google is a little bit different. I always laugh because I got used to Facebook and Facebook's made a lot of sense to me. And then I got into Google and I felt like they purposely just didn't want to do it the way it makes sense. And now it makes sense. I get it. But I'm going to leave it very open-ended without saying what I'm doing. For big scale, where do you focus on? How do you kind of, when you launch a client, do you have some kind of set stages you go through for targeting, and what kind of targetings you like the most?
I do. If I was to tell other people how to do it, I'd say start with remarketing, just because you can mop up what you're already doing on Facebook, for example, and say, they get to key pages, run ads. And that's where things like your book ad, like, hey, buy this book or whatever, would work really well, because they know who you are and they're happy to receive that sort of message from you. But I break it down into 3 types of shoppers. That's how I think about it. So if you imagine if you had a bricks and mortar store, you would have 3 different types of shoppers. You have one, which is like your checkout shopper. And that's someone who's knows who you are, knows your product, has it under arm almost, and be like, this is the one I want. And they might just want to talk to the person at the cashier and just be like, hey, what's the warranty on this thing again? And what's the guarantee here? And How do I put this up at home? Whatever it is you're selling, obviously, they just just need a tiny bit more reassurance to make that purchase. So that's kind of like your remarketing audience. That's the checkout shopper. Then you go on YouTube, you go up a step, and this is now your search-based audience. So I call them like an in-store shopper. And those people can be targeted with things like placement targeting, which is like you choose individual videos you run your ad in front of. That's actually a really cool way of doing it. Not necessarily for scale, but it gives you such insights into the videos that people are watching and where you're getting great results, because it can open up ideas for you. So you've got placement targeting, you've got keyword targeting, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then you have the next level up, which is like custom intent. That's a great one to scale. I'm not sure if you're using too much about custom intent, but that can be great. That's like where you build an audience based on keywords to Google. And if anyone types in those sorts of keywords into Google, they kind of fall inside your audience that you've built. And then should they come to YouTube, they'll see your ads. So if you've got a kind of Google search type audience, custom intent can be a great way of getting in front of them. Now the in-store shopper, that type of mentality. And the reason I do it as like a store is because you start to imagine the person you're talking to now and where they're at psychologically. Those people are the people in the store who, let's say you're selling TVs, they might kind of look at the TVs and be like, yeah, I want to buy a TV. I'm just not sure which one is right. I'm still doing my research. I need some help. I need to talk to one of your sales reps. Now, if you were the sales rep talking to that person, you don't need to do the big like attention grabbing start. It's like, you know where they're at psychologically. You can be like, hey, you're looking for a TV? All right, let me walk you through like a few different options. And so you have like a helpful approach to the video ads that you create. And so when it comes to placement targeting, keyword targeting, custom intent targeting, to a certain extent in-market audience targeting as well, you can kind of know where they're at psychologically. And you can say, well, if they were standing in front of me looking for answers, I'll just be really helpful. And that's going to convert way better than if you go in guns blazing with a big attention grabber. It's not kind of what they're in the mood for at that moment in time. So I try and give a different message to the in-store shopper. And then you get the third audience, which are the people that are walking past the store. They may not be in that moment in time actually interested in TVs, if you're selling TVs, but they might stop and be like, do you know what? I was thinking about getting a new TV. I should probably come down here next week and have a look at some of these TVs when I've got a bit more time on my hands. And it's those people that are kind of the interest-based audience. They're not necessarily ready to buy just yet, but we need to get them into the shop. And that's where attention grabbers at the very start can really help. So those types of audiences tend to fall into a category of like in-market audiences. It could be topics sometimes as well. That can be search as well. So that could be like the in-store shopper. But really you're looking at mass scale here, affinity audiences and custom affinity audiences and similar audiences, which is like lookalike audiences, if you compare it to Facebook. Those ones can really scale. You're going to find it's a little bit broader, so you're probably not going to grab so many people coming through that route, so that you can take a slightly different approach with those people sometimes. But if you can grab them and bring them in store and give them a great experience, the chances are they're going to turn into customers at a pretty good rate. And if you can crack custom affinity audiences and affinity audiences, man, like that can scale like crazy. But you just got to be mindful of taking it slowly with those audiences and building them up. If you're going to crack 1 million a month, you definitely need to get into affinity and custom affinity audiences.
Okay, so let's go through these because a lot of people listening probably don't know what these are. Keyword is like on Facebook, it's interest. So keywords, you type in a bunch of keywords that how does it work? If someone types in the keyword on YouTube, you show up, right? That's the way it works?
During that session, yeah. So let's say, for example, you typed in how to get into affiliate marketing, which is obviously a keyword you should be targeting. Even if you didn't get in front of them at that moment in time with your pre-roll ad, then it may be that they go in 20 minutes later are watching Joe Rogan's podcast or something like that. Then you can still show up. So it's recently you typed in a keyword on YouTube about that.
Perfect. From there, you said we go to, from that, it was custom intent. Yep. And custom intent, the way you described it is Google goes a little wider now. So they're not just looking at your search on YouTube, they're looking at your search and your activity kind of across Google's platform and maybe a little bit of a longer time span. So you may have typed in make money 3 days ago, and Google's like, this person's kind of in that learning how to make money. So this how to make money with affiliate marketing kind of fits the mold. It was recent, just 2-3 days ago. So they're still hot. Does that did I describe that accurately?
You can be a lot more specific with it though as well. So you choose the search terms that you want to put in there. So you could be like, make money could be a keyword. And then it's like, okay, quite a broad messaging, but I would say build a custom intent audience about affiliate marketing. You could say how to get into affiliate marketing. What is affiliate marketing? You choose all those keywords that you think people type into Google, and then you say, right, this is a custom intent audience, like perfectly suited for affiliate marketing, for example.
So how many keywords do you think should go into a custom intent audience when you're trying to build one? Do you have a rough idea?
Yeah, so I build many. My team and I build many. I would suggest to start with about 8 to 10, even though Google suggests 50. But find out which ones work for you and then start clustering them together afterwards. So you might say, okay, affiliate marketing worked, and maybe some, like you might say like search terms about affiliate marketing, and then maybe some affiliate marketing network names. So you could have like AffiliateX, Giddy Up, for example. You could be like, find out which names people are typing in. You're like, cool, that's all. Because very rarely would you go to kind of giddyyup.io or something like that to straight off the bat. You'll be like, you type it into Google first, press enter, and then the website comes up, and then you'll click it and it would open. That's the sort of thing where you can like, right, let's put all the networks together and see if any of those pull well. And then you can be like, great, if affiliate marketing as search terms and the brand search terms came together nicely, you could then build a custom intent that brings both together. And then that could like double up, if not triple up, with your scale opportunity.
I like that. So basically, instead of going after one custom intent that's got the 50, go after build 5 or build 10 of 10 each and split them up by topics, sprinkle it out, see which topic did the best, and then go deeper into that and expand on it to scale on that. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's custom intent. After custom intent, we talked, I think it was topics, or we went to, what's kind of the next area you would go?
Yeah, topics and InMarket are kind of a weird one where they kind of are a bit search, a bit audience based. So a topic is like the content you're watching right now. And that's, it's not like, you're on YouTube, you get like categories of videos. It's more topics like this. They're predefined inside of Google's AdWords platform or the Google Ads platform. So you have the loads of topics to choose from. And sometimes there's ones that are just really relevant for your niche that you're working in or niche that you're working in. And so you can choose them and test them out. And if you've got good data in your account already, like you've been running some ads for a little while and your pixels are getting seasoned and they're performing well, you can just sometimes find those topics work incredibly well. So that's exciting to explore those for sure.
Wow. Okay. And then what's InMarket? How do you, describe that again? Like for me, what would be an InMarket audience?
Yeah. So InMarket is...
Are they pre-selected or did I build one? Is it custom or it's pre-selected?
People being able to build them soon.
Okay. But right now it's what's there.
What's there. Yeah. So InMarkets are, they're built they're predefined, so they're named something. So it could be like baby related products, and there could be like a whole list of different categories. It's amazing how many categories there really are. So you can go through loads of stuff. But it's people in the market for a product typically, or a service. So let's say, for example, and the way they build these is people changing their everyday behavior. So let's say, for example, I was about to go on holiday and I type in flights to Cancun or something along those lines. I don't know why I thought Cancun, but let's go with it. So then I'll be like hotels in Cancun and car rental Cancun or whatever it might be. I'm typing those things in, and Google are basically tracking everything. And they're saying, you've never typed this sort of stuff in before. That means it's not one of your interests. It's just more something that you've been doing recently. So you're interested in it at this moment in time. It's like a state you're in rather than a trait that you have. And with that, they like in the last 7 to 14 days, if you've been searching that type of stuff, you'll fall into certain InMarket audiences based on your behavior. And then if you're in the travel industry, there's a whole list of different destinations that people are traveling to. So you can say, right, I want to choose the ones. Or if you've been looking up car seats for kids there'll be an in-market audience for car seats and children car seats and things like that. So there's a whole load of different targeting. And again, it's just going through and choosing the ones that you think are relevant. But it's great because those audiences refresh themselves quite a bit, because it's not like someone's always interested in car seats for children. It's going to be a short window where they're doing their research and making their purchase. So it's like it's a conveyor belt of new people coming through all the time. So if you get that one nailed and it scales, it's not really going anywhere. It's going to keep on performing well for you.
Oh, cool. I want to go back. I forgot to ask you a question. So we're going to come back. So we just paused at InMarket, and we're going to move on to talk about Affinity and move on to talk about Similar. But before that, let's go all the way back to before interest. You had mentioned placement videos. And the reason I wanted to ask you about that is they have never worked for me. And it's probably because I'm doing it wrong. My CPMs and costs are just through the roof on them, because I don't know. What am I doing wrong? Is there a certain amount of them I should have in a campaign? Or, because look, in my industry, there's a gajillion, babillion videos I would love to be in front of. There's so many people talking about this stuff, but I've not done it for too long, but I've done a little bit, and it's come out like ridiculously expensive. And many times I can't even get it to run. Like, it just, if I keep upping my target CPA, it doesn't even matter. Google just doesn't care. So I'm wondering, because you said that was the first thing, so you must have had some success with it. How do you set those up? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, right now is a weird time for placement targeting on YouTube. So you're not alone. It's not like it's isolated just to you. There's certain markets that have seen big swings. Like, I talk to some YouTube ad buddies of mine sometimes. I'm like, hey guys, have you seen big CPM swings recently? And they're like, yeah, we're being brutally murdered recently with CPM changes and things. So I think that we're going through strange times where, with COVID, I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but there was a moment where everyone was at home and advertisers were pulling budgets. So all of a sudden, like, CPMs just dropped like crazy because less competition, more eyeballs. It was just crazy good times for advertisers in certain markets. And then there was almost like a backlash to that, where marketers had like extra budget from Q1, they just dumped into Q2, and people were starting to go back to work again. And so there were less eyeballs and more advertisers than there normally are. So you get this big swing in CPMs. So it's a crazy time. So if you got caught up in that, that might be one potential reason. You will find that target CPA campaigns, so you've got target CPA, you've got maximized conversions, and you've got manual, like CPV or cost per view campaigns as well. Like, those are three core ones that I tend to think about when I'm looking at YouTube advertising. And it can be worthwhile setting up placement targeting with all three, like 3 campaigns with all 3 bidding strategies, and just seeing which ones activate. You are going to be seeing high CPMs with placement targeting because you're being so kind of granular, but don't worry too much about the CPMs with those campaigns, because you just know it's going to be expensive. But you get such a benefit out of placement. You're never going to get huge scale from placement targeting, but what you are going to get is you're going to get the titles of the videos that people clicked and converted on, and it gives you such interesting intel sometimes, because first of all, you can look and you'd be like, oh wow, didn't think of that. That's amazing. So we've done this twice over the years where it just made a massive breakthrough. So one was we were promoting one client in like communication and public speaking skills and that type of thing. And one of the placements that came up was this meditation video. I was like, this meditation video is working ridiculous. Never would have targeted that before. And then we're like, well, let's try and find some more meditation videos. And then we found more, and they all converted really well. And we're like, right, let's get all the channels. They all worked really well. Now let's put keywords in. They all worked really well. We're like, oh, okay, don't know why, but meditation people love public speaking as well and buy that stuff as well. So that was a really interesting discovery that we would never have found without placement targeting. And the same thing happened with a baby product that we're promoting around sleep. And again, lullabies, you could say that we should have found that one, but lullabies was one that kind of just jumped out at us. So like, oh, of course, we didn't even think about adding lullabies. But on YouTube, the viewing behavior is that parents are like, lullabies for children, and they press go on play on YouTube, and this video will play for 8 hours of just lullabies, and the kid can fall asleep to it in the background. It's almost like a third parent YouTube sometimes. But that's it. Like, you start to see these discoveries that you get with placement targeting. And that's why I love them, because it's like, I can use that because now I'm going to use that as a custom intent audience. And now I'm going to use that as a part of my affinity strategy as well. And you can just find these little insights that you wouldn't have found before.
No, that makes perfect sense. All right. Love it. Okay. So let's go back. So we were talking about scaling past topics. We got into InMarket, and now we're sitting at Affinity. And then you said similar. So what's Affinity? Describe the Affinity audiences for us.
Yeah, so Affinity Audiences are basically interest-based audiences. So if you have been going to surfing websites, we talked about James Schramko earlier. He's always into his surfing. So his likelihood is that he's going to surfing websites all the time. And if you're doing that, then Google can look at that and be like, okay, cool. You're a kind of a surfing type of guy. You're going to be interested in this stuff. And as a result, you would fall into certain pre-built affinity audiences around surfing. So you can look through all the affinity audiences that might be relevant to you. Now, there's some weird ones out there. So there's things like theater aficionados and things. You're like, what is that? What does that mean? And you can kind of make a judgment call on that. But what we do is we just test nearly every one of them and just see how they perform, because the titles of the audiences sometimes don't feel relevant. And so you can test them and get great results with things like, I didn't even know that would be a thing. But okay, fine. Theater aficionados really love, I don't know, whatever you're promoting, baby sleep products or something like those lines. And so it's worthwhile testing out a few ideas and seeing how they perform. So there's affinity audiences that are the pre-built ones inside of Google Ads, but then there's custom affinity audiences. Now, these are ones like you have to kind of play around with, and it feels like you're strangling an octopus sometimes with affinity audiences or custom affinity audiences. So you can build your own affinity audiences, basically. It's relatively new. It's been around for probably a year, 18 months or something, but it's getting better and better all the time. So there's 4 ways you can build them. So there's 4 things you can use to build a custom affinity audience, and you can mix and match the 4 as well. So the first one is you just type in interests. You literally just type in like, okay, I want to get in front of marathon runners, and you can type that in. And then you just type in marathon runners, and Google kind of understand what you mean. And it's like, cool, we'll go build you a list of marathon runners. So it's quite helpful like that. That's one way. So you just build the interest. Another way, which I really like, is based on places that people visit. So let's say, for example, you're getting in front of golfers. You could say, okay, if they go to a golf club, because Google have got Google Maps and all that sort of stuff. If they visit a golf club, I want you to build an audience of golfers for me. And you can do that as well. Or you can do like spas and that type of thing. Like you can choose where people frequent and then build audiences based on their locations they visit. Then the third way you can do it is based on apps on people's phones, which I think is crazy cool. So if people are like, if you're in the financial market and people have got like markets.com as an app on their phone, for example, you can be like, great, anyone who's got downloaded that app on their phone, I want to build an audience of those people as well. So some really good intel there. But the one that's probably the most popular way to do it is by URLs. So you can build custom affinity audiences based on URLs that your customers visit. It'll only be taken at the domain level. So if you found like a Facebook page of like an ideal site that you think, oh, that'd be perfect, all the people that go to that Facebook page, it would take facebook.com and it wouldn't be very useful for you. But you can do it on like blogs that are dedicated to that subject, you can find websites that are like pre-built perfectly.
How many should I put into it? Because my brain's already running right now with custom affinity. I mean, look how many websites there are in our industry of make money, right? I mean, heck, I could put ClickBank in there. I could put ClickFunnels in there. I could put Digital Marketer in there. I could put Lurn, my own domain in there. How many should I put into one custom affinity, like to make that a meaty, sizable, defined audience?
To begin with, I'll go one URL per custom affinity audience.
Oh wow, okay. So if I put something like ClickBank or whatever, like, will it be big enough? Will it tell me how big that is?
I never trust the stats on what it's going to tell you how big it is. Like, I've just got to test it. Okay. If it doesn't fire for any reason, maybe it's been too small, but ClickBank is a big enough website. Okay. And it's like having a remarketing pixel on your competitor's website, or a brand that is complementary to what it is you do as well. So yeah, you can choose all these websites. You could, if you felt like, okay, this is pretty much identical. Like if you had one like ClickBank and then you had ClickFunnels, maybe they're different, but if you found like ones that are kind of really closely related to each other, then you can say, okay, cool, maybe dump those two together because it just makes sense. They're pretty much the same thing. But I would suggest go one per one URL per custom affinity audience and see how you get on. If it performs well and it works really well, then like great, go to another level. Go and create kind of maybe take 5 of your best ones that have performed well and then put those together and see if those now work really well. As I said, it feels like you're strangling an octopus sometimes with like, it's never a smooth path with this process. But that's why some of the bidding is important. Like the holy grail of like YouTube advertising to really scale is target CPA with affinity audiences or custom affinity audiences that scale, because those ones can go crazy. If you want to spend a lot of money, you're going to have to crack that. But to get there, like if you try to do it in day one, you're not going to get there. It's not going to work. Or it's very unlikely. You're going to have to build up to it. And the way that to do it is to start with much lower budgets, still testing out those audiences. And the way that we find we are getting really good success at the moment, and it does change because the algorithms change, but like we're finding that if we break it out and do maximize conversion campaigns across the big targeting areas and just keep the budgets low and just say, right, and if we start realizing we can spend budget and it's working, and it says, hey, you can spend 3 times as much budget on this custom affinity audience and it's proving well, and we're doing that maximized conversion, we would then be like, all right, before we go and create, before we go and try and scale up on that one campaign we've built, we'd actually say, right, well, look, that's targeting males and females. Maybe it's worthwhile breaking out that existing campaign into 2 campaigns and do one for men and one for women. So we kind of break it out and share that budget across 2 campaigns then. And then we can do the same thing again with maybe countries or devices or like whatever. When we look at the analysis of each campaign, we can say, oh, it's probably fair to split out on this now. And so what we're trying to do is create multiple maximized conversion campaigns, but keep the budgets low. So we're increasing the budget by creating more campaigns. And then once we feel like, okay, this is spending a good amount of money with the maximized conversion campaigns, then we'll group it together inside of a target CPA campaign. And then the target CPA campaign can spend a lot more money.
Wow. All right. So that was pretty cool. I love here's what I was thinking. So in my head, I was already thinking like, so if I tested ClickBank and it worked, for example, I could go create an ad creative that specifically shouts out ClickBank. So it could be like same Tesla example. I could say, here's how ClickBank pays for my Tesla. If you want to learn more about that, I'll show you in this video. So, cause that way, the person who's watching that video they probably recognize the word ClickBank. Or whatever. And so it can start to really even personalize the creative. If you want to say it without infringing on anyone's trademarks and all of that, of course, but you don't even have to. There could be another word that you could say that you just know, hey, everyone who follows this website would kind of relate to that word. So I'll use it up front in my ad to make it different and catch their attention. Really killer stuff. I know, again, we could stay on this for another couple of hours, I'm sure. Mind-blowing, though. But for my team who's listening right now, summary, I don't think we're doing anything with custom affinity. I don't think we're doing things with topics. I definitely know we're not doing things with placement. And I'm not even sure we're doing that much with custom intent. So if you guys are listening, we got to go revisit these things based on what Tom's just said. So Tom, last but not least, the setup. You've talked about this multiple times, so let's start right there. But then I want to talk about like kind of how you break things out, structure for scale. There's target CPA, there's maximized conversions, there's CPV bidding, I think you said, right? Where you do manual bidding, and it's always, the jury's always out, like what is best, what is for scale. I think right now we just do target CPA, if I'm not mistaken. We don't really mess around with the other stuff. But what's your take on that? You've mentioned a few times try all, or do you have one you favor?
I like them for different reasons. So, as I say, the holy grail is target CPA and the bigger audiences. If you can get those to dial in, that's the way you're headed. Like that's where you need to get to start spending a lot per day. So, and you're going to want to have, if you're going to do that, you want to stabilize it with some clever retargeting or remarketing campaigns, and you're going to want to have YouTube backed up by Facebook retargeting as well, and all that. Like you want to make sure it all sings together nicely. If you try and look at it as like an isolated platform just by itself, you're going to be missing out quite big time. So it's worthwhile getting used to retargeting across multiple platforms, because that could just mean that, like, great, if they hit this page from YouTube, let's get them everywhere. Let's be omnipresent across every platform. So just see me everywhere, but it's nice and cheap to follow up, and it will support your YouTube exposure. But when it comes to the bidding type, basically, which is, as you say, target CPA, maximize conversion, or CPV, there are other types, but those are the core ones to focus on. When we start these days, it's weird. Like, I don't know if this is good advice to everybody, but this is like how we do it. We'll start with a campaign, choose the targeting we want to go for, and set it up 3 ways. We try and maximize conversion first. And then if that doesn't work too well, we then go to cost per view, because sometimes it's a problem with the CPM, or we haven't got enough data in the account. So you kind of want to get about 500 conversions in order to really know that the algorithm is helping you at this point. So if it doesn't have those conversions, you might find it just doesn't fire, like you talked about earlier with the placement targeting. And so with that problem, we go to CPV bidding, we get some momentum going, and then we revisit maximize conversion again. If we get maximize conversion working, we'll normally hold it to about $50 a day spend. And then we'll introduce, we'll split up the campaigns. So we split up males and females, desktops and mobiles, and all the rest of it, like countries, and every which way we can that doesn't compete against itself for the same targeting. And then when we start building that out and we get to a good amount of spend, we start to turn on target CPA, same targeting again. Now, what we found, and this will go against pretty much every ad buyer that will listen to this. So jury's out. I'm always willing to learn, but we just look at the stats and we're across multiple accounts and we're like, well, this is kind of what we're seeing. Most people say don't run target CPA and maximize conversion together at the same time. And we're just finding that it's not making an impact. So what we do is we look at it as like the little brother. So target CPA is the big brother, maximize conversion is the little brother, and they can work side by side. Like, we haven't seen too much massive fluctuation in this. And so we let them run side by side. And what's nice about that is maximize conversion at low budgets can be your kind of like constant, like, performer, reliable, consistent, let that just happen. And you're like, okay, cool. That's not going to be seeing too much fluctuation, because you don't want to hit more than like $50 per day in each campaign, but can do multiple campaigns. Then if you do target CPA on top, you are kind of hitting the same targeting, but in a different way. Like, the algorithm works in a different way. And when you do that type of targeting, you can really scale, but you do see big fluctuations with that. So as you see the big fluctuations, you might say, it was working really well for 2 weeks and it died a death and we need to rebuild it. But you're not dying a death and going back to zero spend. You're going back to 5,000 a day or whatever in the early days. And you're like, great, well, we had some days where it was amazing, but now we're back to our status quo of like our reliable numbers coming through. And you might have to try new creative or whatever it might be, but then you build up that target CPA again. But you can do this across multiple targeting types. So you shouldn't have like all of them die at the same time. You should have like one not perform quite so well for a little period of time, change up the creative, and then see it scale again. But that's why you need you need to be thinking about doing lots and lots of creative and lots of tests, because we find that if we put more than 2 ads together in an ad group, like equivalent of an ad set, if you're familiar with Facebook targeting, then by having 2 in there, even if one's outperforming the other by quite a bit, if they're both profitable, keep them both running. Because if you just rely on one video inside of one ad group, we tend to find the CPMs increase. So even if you think, oh, well, this ad's performing so much better, you take the other one away and the CPMs rise on that first one. And you're like, damn it, I don't know why that happened. So keep it in there. It's frustrating as hell, but then just try and replace that worse ad with a better version of it. And so you want to kind of try and keep on creating more and more creative. So you get the anti-fatigue, but also you get the impact of lower CPMs by having more videos per campaign. But that kind of comes back to why we've structured the creative in such a way where we have that 3 acts. Act 2 stays the same, and then Act 1 and Act 3 can actually be shot multiple times in different settings. So you could almost like have like you at a coffee shop turning around your laptop and saying ClickBank, and then like, this is how you nail it on this platform, or whatever you want to say. But then it's like, right, you're showing a setting which emulates freedom, having coffee with a friend, or whatever it might be. Like, so you might be teaching a friend to learn affiliate marketing. And you're like, this is ClickBank. This is why you don't want to do ClickBank targeting or ClickBank affiliate marketing or something. So in that setting, within seconds, the customer's like, I want to be doing that. I want to be him doing that thing. But you're creating loads and loads and loads of these videos. And it's so easy for you to do because you just whip out your iPhone and you just go for it. But you might shoot some nice ones. You might shoot some iPhone ones. But it means you can do loads of creative. And that's going to support your growth as you do these campaign types.
Man, that was a lot. Anyone who's listening, you got to go back and listen to that again, because he went into budgets, types of targeting, how you split it up. So I'm going to try to summarize a couple of things. So one question I have is, we're already doing thousands of dollars a day in spend. So does the maximized conversion budget cap of $50 apply no matter how much ad spend you're doing? It's like per campaign, which is directed by targeting and ad creatives. Maximized conversion one should $50. Only the target CPA can go up, and that budget can go up a lot higher. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you can do multiple versions of that $50. Like, say, for example, you have 50 campaigns at $50. That's $2,500, I think. Yeah, so you can start to scale up that way pretty quick.
For the same targeting. So am I just duplicating that campaign?
Yeah, same targeting, but you don't want to have overlaps. So you don't want to be like, you kind of want to split out by clear distinctions. So age, gender, device.
Okay. So that was my next question. So you seem to love scaling by splitting by demographic. So I've said it a few times now. So you're a fan of male, female split, countries split, device split. And that's one way you can take one targeting and scale it, is to just like literally split. And then you mentioned age groups. You can even split by age group. So so you guys, to me, it sounds like your structure is one of many campaigns. That's how you like to do it. It's just a large volume of campaigns.
I suppose our structure is so different to others who are like ad buyers. Not necessarily when it comes to the actual campaign build, but there's a subtle difference that we take, which is we start with the video first. Most people start with the targeting first and find the video that fits the targeting. We start with the video first and find the targeting that fits the video. It's a subtle difference. But then when you start thinking like that, you're saying, here's a piece of creative that we're going to run. I'm going to see who likes that creative. And we've got all these audiences that we think will be good for it. And then the actual campaigns we're building are video first. So we might have like this video along with this video. Those are kind of the same sort of theme of video. Let's see how those perform. And that makes it a lot easier to control the experience for the user, because you start to be able to control who sees what video and when, rather than just bombarding people with the same ad over and over again.
No, makes perfect sense. Love it. Listen, I want to respect your time. Thank you. My mind is bulging. I don't even want to ask any more questions right now, because I want to go actually implement, and then definitely 100% want to have you back and maybe do a very different kind of episode where we like dig in and show you what we did based on what you said, and like then you rip us a new one and everyone else gets to watch and learn from it, and that'll be a lot of fun. So one question that comes right to mind, Tom, is do you have a course? Do you have training? Do you have workshops? Where can people learn from you? Because I'm asking because I think I kind of want to send my team over your way as well and get them into your training. So tell us where we can get a hold of you and where you have what you have.
Yeah, of course. So we've got the book, which is called Viewability. That is available on my website, which is viewability.co.uk. It's also on Amazon, all that sort of stuff. But the website, is viewability.co.uk. We've got our trainings there, and we've got our agency there as well. So everything's all under one roof. It's like, we like to think of it as the home of YouTube advertising. But that's viewability.co.uk.
That's awesome. Listen, everybody, I mean it. Seriously, if you're doing YouTube ads and you want to scale it, this is the person to learn from. Go grab the book as a minimum, viewability.co.uk as a bare minimum. Tom, thank you so much for being here with us today, man. It has been such a powerful episode. So many massive nuggets learned. For those of you watching, watch it again. And also, if you're on YouTube, come on, click subscribe, click the thumbs up icon, click the bell icon, leave a comment. We know Tom spends time on YouTube, so make sure you leave him a comment. He'll come check it out, and thank him for taking time away from his kids, his family, his business to be here today to help us and teach us. And of course, go to anikpodcast.com. Please, if you could, leave us a great review on iTunes. We pick randomly every week or every other week. I pick winners to win cool gear, free time with me, win cash, whatever it is. Just leave us a review. Help us get this podcast out to the world. With that said, this is Anik Singal reminding you, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Come on, fighting entrepreneurs. Go out there, fight for your dreams. Until next time, signing off.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.